Ladies and gentlemen, I am Aaron Nix, the worst podcast host in the history of professional wrestling. And I am joined by three of the most disgusting, delinquent, delicious, debaucherous reprobates in all of professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Wrestle Plug State of Wrestling Address, where we discuss this week's wrestling news. Joining me first, right below me on your screen, he doesn't know this, but he's always below me because he's a hobgoblin. He is the man with way too much of a hot mother. He is, of course, the legend that is Sean McKenzie.
Oh, wait, I thought you were talking about Tanvir because he's below you for me. Ah, shit. I was not ready for that.
Tanvir's mum is not hot.
Oh, well.
I assume.
Fair enough.
Is she hot?
No comment.
Does anyone fancy your mum, Tanvir?
Not that I know of.
Well, there you go. No, fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen.
Tanvir fancy...
Yeah, okay, he broke up then, so whatever. All right, so yeah, we have Sean McKenzie, ladies and gentlemen, and now joining us on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, the man who is always in incognito mode. It is, of course, the man who puts the wood in Bollywood. It is Tanvir.
Hi, everyone.
Jesus, depression.
Hi, everyone. How we doing here? It's your boy, Tanvir. Sup, bitch?
Can you imagine if that's how you spoke all the time? That would be amazing. And of course,
we doing here, boys?
Oh, dear God Almighty!
Just become like Fred Durst.
No, I hate this fucking podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And finally, rounding out the fatal four-way that presents to you the wrestling news this week, ladies and gentlemen, one half of the IWE Tag Team Champions. Don't know who the other half is. One member of the delicious 80s guys. Of course, the reigning and defending BCD champion, the main event, the history maker. And let me just get my list up here. Some say his penis is so big that it actually requires an airport traffic control tower for women to legally land on it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ichiban #1, Roger SEARS. Tanvir.
That's my favourite.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
We got
Anything is going to kill my COVID, it's that.
Yes, by the way, Sean McKenzie has COVID-19, and this podcast is pretty much the verbal version of COVID-19. So congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You have all been contracted, and I look forward to your letters of complaint. Tanvir, did you just interrupt me?
Get your...
Oh, yeah,
there we go.
Squeezes your bitch.
There we go. He's got those little wrist
and
things.
if you are going to complain...
My forearms are going to be fucking burning.
Did he just do it again? Did he just interrupt you again?
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, you also. Yeah, but you also interrupted me, you little prick. So, you know.
I ain't got any.
Well, your forfeit will be you have to think of your mum. How about that? Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Wrestle Plug. Let's talk about wrestling. Let's talk about wrestling news, and let's talk about WWE Backlash from last weekend. And I think everybody is sufficiently satisfied with the audience in Lyon, France. Ladies and gentlemen, WWE Backlash, of course, emanated from France last weekend. 5 matches on tap. And I do have it on good authority that all three of these gentlemen have actually watched Backlash, or at least, you know, I'm pretty sure Tanvir watched it with me live. I can't remember.
Yeah, we watched it together.
Yeah. So nobody else joined. Well, Roger joined later, but he was busy wrestling an icon at the Dorset Food Festival. How was that, Roger says?
Next topic.
I understand that you I understand that you wrestled a diabetic Jon Snow. Is that correct? All right. WWE Backlash emanating from Lyon, France. I have just one thing to say. Il est vraiment phénoménal. La 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 la. Thank you very much, France, for finally actually contributing something useful in this world, other than cheese and wine, of course. So, Backlash kicked off with the Bloodline in a tag team street fight against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, better known as RKO. Thanks for the cheap t-shirts. Rod Sears, a banging opener in your estimation?
I think so. You know, the thing that troubled me at the start of it is it literally seemed like the baby faces battering the crap out of them for far too long before the heels took over. It just seemed to drag on for ages with these two guys getting the crap beaten out of them. And I thought this is not really the way to showcase Tama Tonga at all.
No,
Not to begin with. Obviously it picked up, but
do we think Tama Tonga's size is a problem? He was very small. Like, yes, he's jacked. Yes, he's shredded. Yes, he's a very good professional wrestler. But in the land of giants that is WWE, he looks extraordinarily small by comparison. He just looks like a cruiserweight, to be honest. Tanvir, is that an issue for you? Obviously, you spent many a year watching Tama Tonga in New Japan.
It's not an issue for me, but I think it puts into perspective because, like you said, Tama's a pretty like jacked guy, and seeing him against guys against Shingo and Ishii, he looked fine. I think it just puts into perspective just how fucking huge like Randy and Solo really are. Because next to Kevin Owens didn't look too bad, but when you see Tama Tonga in comparison to, say, a Randy or a Solo, man does look a bit like trim, which is insane to speak again of how big those guys are. I mean, Randy especially after he returned.
Yeah, so obviously, like for me personally, I thought the match was excellent. A real red hot opener. Really good, really fun, entertaining. A lot of street fight stuff, as you'd imagine. A lot of brawling around the arena. It's amplified tenfold by a red hot crowd. One of the loudest crowds they've had probably in the last 20 years. This is as close to the Attitude Era in terms of pop, level of energy, just excessive thirst and hunger for a product that they've not seen in years. Sean McKenzie, are you excited about Tangaloa debuting? Because I'm sure you're a massive fan.
I mean, I've never really watched out. I'm going to be honest, like Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, I didn't know who they were until they joined WWE, and then I did my research back on. And I'm actually excited to see outside members of the bloodline that aren't the Usos, that aren't, yes, they're still descendants of Umaga and Rikishi, obviously, but that are outside from WWE, and especially since they were a tag team before, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa, and hopefully
Hikuleo.
Jacob Fatu coming in as well anytime soon. That would be a sick thing to see, because it just shows how big the bloodline actually is. It's not just secluded to the WWE, but actually it's been all across the fucking world.
I mean, we got hit. So
why did you start your sentence like?
It's because I could see you, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to interrupt or not. I mean, we got hints of like some of them, because if we all remember the WrestleMania press conference where The Rock showed the family tree, and Jacob Fatu is on there, and I think Zilla is too. So it's like, yeah, they are
Godzilla
like, making it known. Yeah, Zilla Fatu, the son of he's the son of Umaga.
What, Godzilla?
Tanvir, that went right over your head. But also, I'm pretty sure that they were on that family tree because that just happens to be the Anoa'i family tree.
Which is huge.
I don't think that was.
But Tama and Tanga, they're the sons of Haku, and they're not on the family tree. Reason being because it's more of like a handshake, or Rock calls Haku uncle, so they're family in that way. So they're not on the family tree, but they're technically part of the family through the respect aspect, more so.
I think what I find interesting is when you actually think of how far the bloodline goes back into how it was all sort of like done through like a blood pact between two different families. And it's just now, because of that whole blood pact, it's a massive tree of people that's just going to grow and grow forever. And that's not just going to stop. That's going to continue going.
Roger says, how long until they should pull the plug on GOD versus the Usos?
Oh,
Or shall I say pull the trigger?
I mean, they've got to get the Usos back together in a sensible way, right? Yeah. It's one of those, isn't it? Everyone's desperate to see it, but at the same token, you'd rather they hold off and make you wait a little bit longer. But I don't know. Is SummerSlam too soon?
Did Jimmy Uso? We're going to talk about the draft as well. I believe Jimmy Uso stayed on SmackDown, didn't he?
think
despite getting the
so.
shite kicked out of him by the Bloodline.
I mean, Seth Rollins drafted to Raw, and it's like, mate, Seth's getting surgery right now.
Yeah, like the draft is something else entirely, to be honest. We'll talk about that in a moment. Like, obviously, the draft took place before Backlash, but me personally, I was very disappointed in it. Overall, though, an excellent opener, like a very, very good opener. Moving onwards, the triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship. Bayley successfully retained against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. I got to be honest, like I was a little bit nervous that this match was going to fall flat after such a red hot opener, and ended up being one of the greatest triple threat women's matches I've ever seen. It was fucking. I personally think this match was head and shoulders above WrestleMania 32 with Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Sasha Banks. I think it was just so much better. The work rate was better. I think Tiffany Stratton is a mega star. Like, she's going to be probably in that Alexa Bliss / Charlotte Flair role, where she's going to be just undeniable. Like the looks, the athleticism, the attitude, the promo, the ring gear, the presentation, everything is there for somebody who just feels like they're going to be a mega star. Match was fucking excellent. Roger Sears, would you agree that this is one of the better women's title matches in recent memory?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the only points I was going to make about it was literally what you just said about how much of a star Tiffany's going to be. She is going to be a mega star, isn't she? That moonsault is something else. It really is.
Makes EO's guys moonsault look shit, doesn't it?
Yeah, and when she did it, the land on feet and did a backward roll straight back up to her feet, it was like, this is something else. This is some serious talent here. So yeah, she's just going to be shooting for the stars. She was the standout for me, and that's not to say the other two weren't good, but it's just that's a highlight of just how good she is.
Yeah, one of the things that maybe quite a few people missed was Naomi twerking on Tiffany Stratton's head, Tanvir. I'm sure that was something of great enjoyment to you.
Bonda!
That woman has mad cake. Yes.
It was the battle of the cake. It was the battle of the cake.
Yes, all these women had extremely nice bottoms, it has to be said. I'm sure I get cancelled just for
bottom.
No. For the love of Christ.
Hell.
Right now I've got to fucking edit that in. Thanks.
Put the cocky in my bottom.
If only you could like actually just play sounds through the fucking Zoom call. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but I'm
there
sure
is. I'm so low rent at this point. This podcast is low rent anyway. I just can't be asked to fucking put it on OBS and then put the videos over the top.
Do you want one of these?
It'd be too much fucking power.
I do need one of those. Those are really good. Can you please link me to that, by the way? I need to get one of those.
Yeah,
I mean, I've just dropped $1,000 on communication equipment and a drone. So, you know, because all Arabs must have at least one drone in their family. Ladies and gentlemen, easy now. Easy. It's a video drone, all right? I'm not going to target it. Although, to be honest, if it could launch a target, then I know exactly where I'm aiming for. Lunatrix's house. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's all right. How do you like that, bitch? I'll get my match eventually. Roger Sears will get booked regularly. Otherwise, I will destroy your entire fucking promotion. Yeah, I thought this match was amazing. Bayley, of course, being the linchpin in the middle. Tanvir, Sean McKenzie, what did you think of the women's triple threat?
It was great for what it was. I really enjoyed it. Like you two have, well, you and Roger have both said. But I'm gonna pose a question to you guys that you kind of pointed to Roger. You mentioned God Usos. How long do you think it's gonna be before we get Tiffany Stratton v Charlotte Flair?
I did notice that Charlotte Flair put some social media posts out looking ridiculous. She's in amazing shape. I think she's been injured, hasn't she? And she's slowly coming back from injury. So I think Mania next year. You know, just take your time. No rush. No rush. That's a certifiable banger. The battle of it's weird to think because Charlotte Flair's not been in a company forever. But she feels like the old guard versus the new guard when Tiffany Stratton comes in. We've already seen what Tiffany Stratton could do wrestling Becky Lynch on NXT. Brilliant. Personally, a much better worker in my opinion than Becky Lynch. By the way, very refreshing not having Becky Lynch on this pay-per-view, actually. I think this showed that the women's division has a lot more depth beyond the man. You know, I don't think Becky Lynch is rubbish by any means, but I think she's massively overinflated in her sense of worth. And the promos don't work for me. Like I've always said, sounds like an angry leprechaun having a tricky wank. Like, just doesn't work for me. Just not a fan. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan. Yeah, like it's just that for me, the stock has gone down and down and down. And I know it kind of makes me sound like a bit of a smark, but I just feel like the more you see it, and she's kind of gone into this whingy mode now of like, oh, and all this, and I'm just like, oh, shut up, mate.
Shut up.
I don't care. Like, I don't watch wrestling because I want to relate to you because you're a mother. I want to watch wrestling because I want to see larger than life superheroes. Like Tony Stark doesn't spend the entire Iron Man film talking about his children.
He's only got the one in Endgame. I mean, I like Becky, but I think the moment that I kind of went off on her was when the manhandle slam. I'm like, that's
terrible name for a finisher.
That's not a good finisher, and you already had the disarmer, which is a pretty cool Fujiwara.
It's not even like a pump handle, which would have made if she was used, like for instance, the manhandle slam would work better for Riptide for Rhea Ripley because that is a pump handle slam. So at least there's no wordplay there other than the fact fuck off. It's a shit rock bottom. That's what it is. Or a shit Cairo effect, which is my finish. Just suck my balls. Sean McKenzie, any last words on the women's triple threat match?
I mean, the only thing that I didn't quite agree on was the roll-up finish. I very much think that as a champion, roll-up finishes should only really be like if you're like a sort of cowardice champion and someone's from the other team distract you, you've rolled them up in a cheap way. Or if it's like a possum sort of roll-up to try and trick the other person. I really think that Bayley's first title defense in a PLE event should have been a strong finish with a Bayley to belly suplex on either one of them. I do like the idea that it was on Naomi though, because obviously Tiffany Stratton, I'm tripping on my words again, she is a high rising star, and to pin her would essentially be what Cody Rhodes did with Carmelo Hayes on the recent SmackDown and just completely bury him. Because I feel like Carmelo Hayes is going to have no momentum going anywhere now because the world champion has just beaten a rising star.
Do you agree with that, Rod?
I think just to add to your point, I think why they did the finish like that is obviously to protect Tiffany. She was never going to take the pinfall in it. But I also think they wanted to protect Naomi slightly. They didn't want to bury her, and a quick roll up is actually more acceptable than Naomi getting a big finisher and getting just flat out beaten. This way, it looks like she only just got beaten. So I think the finish was probably designed more to protect the other two rather than to make Bayley look better.
I like the finish with Naomi. I liked it at the end when Naomi's just smiling at her and gives her a hug. Like she came across as a massive face in that moment. Like it's very hard when you've just lost a big title match, especially when you're the other face in the match. I actually think I think it's quite refreshing. In the Vince McMahon era, the heel would have taken the pin.
Yeah.
I feel like Tiffany Stratton would have absolutely taken the pin here. Whereas Sean Levesque very much has his finger on the pulse of what seems to be a better finish. I don't think. I also don't agree that Carmelo Hayes is buried by wrestling Cody. When you're wrestling the WWE Universal Champion on your first night on SmackDown, I actually think that's a massive rub. Like, it's a big deal because automatically it's like, oh, we've now seen this guy wrestling what is considered to be kayfabe the best wrestler by far in this company, the man at the top of the mountain.
So, Sean, do you think that Neville was buried when he lost to Seth Rollins in the WWE Open Challenge those many years?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a little bit of a bad example because that is a bad example to go off of because Neville is no longer with the company and he never really had much of a rising decline until he went off with injury, came back with the full beard and went on to 205 Live, became the Cruiserweight champion, did that little thing with Enzo Amore, and then, yeah, he was kind of released after that. But that is, in a sense, a bury that I do have to disagree with you with.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We shall move on to the next match of the evening, which, of course, was Damian Priest successfully defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. The French crowd, of course, delivered spectacularly, as you'd imagine. This is what many people are saying is the weakest match of the night, but I still thought this was an excellent match. This was the sports entertainment match in what was a very work-strong card. This card was very much the workers' card, a lot more high-end wrestling, the kind of stuff that AEW fans laud their supremacy over WWE with like, we have much better working matches, and we have, you know, better work rate and more moves and stuff like that. And actually WWE responded by giving you a card that had a lot of that. This match was a little bit more sports entertainment, you know, variety. And if this was on the Attitude Era and main event and people would have lost their shit for it, I feel a bit bad for Jey Uso and Damian Priest. I think they went out and delivered an excellent match.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, Jay's entrance was insane, and it did its job in that, because you just had the street fight and then the high intensity triple threat. It did kind of need like a bring down, but also good. So I think it did its good job. Priest had a very strong first defense, and then we were all intrigued by the ending of it, because when you had JD McDonough and Finn Balor appear, of like, oh, okay, where's this leading? So it was more of like a story-driven match of like, okay, we've got all these overlaying storylines, because now where's Jay gonna go from this? Obviously, we saw backstage what happened, just a quick glare. And now we're like, okay, now what's happening with the Judgment Day? So for the match itself, it was fine, it was decent, but it's more but it's more of, okay, the match has happened now, but what's next?
Roger Sears, good match. And also, what do we think about? I mean, they teased the Judgment Day, you know, sort of malfunction at the junction near the end, and Damian Priest losing his cool, which he then apologizes for on Raw on Monday night, and that's it. They just sweep it under the rug, and then Finn Balor ultimately loses to Jey Uso, who is Drew McIntyre's replacement in the King of the Ring, which we'll also cover, by the way. We'll quickly go over the results of that, because Raw was pretty effective in delivering some very good King of the Ring matches. Yeah, Rog, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I totally agree with the statement of that it was probably the least. How was it you were putting it? The workers' matches. So it was the
This
least
was the
one
most
of those,
sports
wasn't it?
entertainment based match.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it definitely was. A lot of overlapping stories going on in this one. I am intrigued as to what they're going to do with the Judgment Day more, because I feel like the Bloodline thing's kind of set in stone where that's going, really. But it's what's happening with the Judgment Day that intrigues me. At first I thought for sure, oh, they're going to turn Finn Balor face, and it'll be Balor versus Priest at Clash of the Castle. Then after seeing this, it almost looked like they were leaning into Priest being turned face. So I'm really, and now, like you say, he's issued an apology for his actions. It's like, oh, they're just sweeping this under the rug and not worrying about it now.
It's also worth pointing out that on Raw, CM Punk comes out and drops a massive spoiler and says in his promo that I'll be seeing you, you know, I'll be waiting for you, even if I have to sit in Glasgow and wait for you, Drew. And I'm like, oh, okay. Are we getting Punk versus McIntyre at Clash of the Castle instead? Which means, you know, Priest likely will probably face Finn Balor. They might build to that potentially, but they haven't got too long to do it. They got just over a month to do that. It's a little bit of a. I don't like fast track. What they call hot shotting storylines, and when they kind of, you know, just shoehorn them in as fast as they can. That's not something that they've done a really good job over the last few years, especially with the Bloodline, of just letting things burn really slowly, letting people build and build and build until they get that pop. Do you
think they could add a caveat with King of the Ring that the winner faces Damien or Cody in Glasgow? Because
is the King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia before Clash of the Castle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, it's on Saturday the 25th, and I think it's a 10 a.m. UK start time.
10 a.m. UK start time. We could all fucking have lunch after fucking Saturday, right? Or we could have breakfast beforehand.
I think I've got a family thing that day because I've got a wedding like literally the week.
Fucking later. Yeah. As we know, Indian weddings last like 10 years.
Yeah,
so by the way, if you need a photographer,
extremely chill. So I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair, to be honest. And also the Saudi Arabia pay-per-views tend to be very hit and miss anyway. That's also actually in the news because it looks like we might be getting more of those, despite the fact a lot of people were hoping that they would shit can them in favor of more international stuff elsewhere. But Saudi are making a big push for it. So, you know, we'll talk about it in a moment. But yeah, no, I thought the match was pretty decent for what it was. Yeah, Jey Uso looks like he might be primed and ready to be king of the ring, but I'm thinking Jey Uso and Gunter potentially in the final, unless the bracket says otherwise. I haven't looked at the bracket properly.
I haven't looked either because I'm thinking, do we get
I'll
Ilya
get it up now.
Gunther?
I mean, that kind of would make a lot of sense, but obviously we'll talk about the King of Ring in a moment. Moving on to the fourth match, of course, from WWE Backlash. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill won the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships from the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane. I can hear Kyle Wilkinson weeping from afar. Yeah.
So while we were in the States for SmackDown, we were chilling with the fans, and this one guy just says that his wife said that the Damage Control v Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill match, she dubbed it as the Blacks v the Asians. That's what we were like, yeah. But, and it was a black guy. It was a black guy.
Oh,
who
I'm
said
not
it.
touching that. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Fucking-
What, like legit, and we
nope.
started
Welcome
busting
to
out
Wrestle
laughing
Plug
like,
After Dark.
Tanvir, we're already on the verge of getting cancelled. Do not make it fucking worse.
There's no verge about it. We are the cancellation verge. We just plummeted off years ago. At this point, we're like South Park. People just expect us to be cunts. This match, once again, they protected Jade Cargill a little bit. It was very much a case of Bianca Belair did a lot of the heavy lifting, and then Jade Cargill comes in, hits it. I've got to say, the one thing I don't like about Jade Cargill, I think her pump kick is very hit and miss. It's kind of either devastating or she just totally misses because people don't want to take it because she's massive. Overall, though, she looked very impressive. She's like, from just an image standpoint, holy cow. Like the body and everything, she is ready made to play Storm in X-Men. It's ridiculous. Like, she looks incredible. And it gave us a title change because we knew we probably weren't going to get any title changes elsewhere, especially when it considers major titles. So, you know, the WWE Women's Tag titles can kind of be almost in a depressing way. They're kind of in that hardcore title role of like, well, we can get away with a title change there because nobody gives a shit. But it's still quite cool to see two black women winning, you know, the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. I think that's actually very cool for the diversity of this company.
I was trying to think if any other like tag, because I know it was Sasha,
Well, Sasha Banks has won it as an
yeah,
individual.
Sasha Bailey.
Not entirely sure if we've had an all-black women's tag
I
team
think this
win the
might be the
titles.
first, which is
Might
pretty
be.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, and they also look like they're perfect together. You know, they color coordinated as well. They actually look very, very impressive as a tag team, and I think it helps rejuvenate Bianca Belair a little bit so that people don't get fed up with her because she has been kind of smashed over like John Cena in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think although her work rate is a lot better than most of the women out there, her charisma and personality isn't, in my opinion, on a par with, say, you know, some of the more higher, like a Tiffany Stratton, for instance, or even a Bailey. I don't think she cuts better promos than those girls. So for her, it's like, okay, she's the work rate champion who's got natural in-ring charisma. So, yeah, like, obviously it's a good choice, right? Like, nobody's going to complain about them winning the tag titles.
The one thing I'm hoping is that this kind of breaks away from now Bianca Belair being in this sort of Damage Control feud that she seems to have been in for quite a while. She's been in limbo with them a lot, and I'm kind of hoping now this gives Bianca Belair a chance to just break away and maybe face some other.
The draft would suggest that, wouldn't it? Like,
The draft would suggest that, yeah. But who fucking knows because it's the, you know. Did they ever say they got rid of that fucking rule where any fucking, even though there's a draft, you can still fucking go to that brand? Did they get rid of that? I don't fucking know.
The WWE Women's Tag Team Champions get to drift, which is one of the interesting things about it because it is obviously the only set of tag titles. They split the male tag teams, so obviously they don't have to worry about that. But with the women, there is only one set of tag titles, which it would be ludicrous to have Raw and SmackDown. They just don't have enough depth in those divisions to get away with that. It works overall. Any final thoughts on the women's tag team title change? Do we feel like the Kabuki Warriors did a good job of holding on to those belts and making them somewhat more relevant again?
Yeah, and it gives Asuka now time to rest because I think Nia Jax and everyone put it that she was working hurt. She didn't want to disappoint anyone, so she did 4 shows in a row. Then that Backlash was a 17-minute match, and she could barely walk. So it's like, yeah, Asuka's gonna take some rest now.
Yeah, I mean that would be a wise idea considering that I think she's just a workhorse, isn't she? For me, Asuka was the woman who kept the women's division ticking over, especially during the COVID era.
Oh, yeah.
And never really got enough love for that. So yeah, well, quite an effective tag team title change for me. And of course, in your main event, Cody Rhodes successfully defends the undisputed WWE Championship in 27 minutes 20 against AJ Styles in an instant classic. What do we think, Sean McKenzie, of Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles, who is probably the most over man in the history of France?
The chant.
Man's more over than Napoleon, fam.
Do the chant, Sean.
I mean, huh?
Do the chant.
I can't next to it.
Il est vraiment!
I can't pronounce what they were saying. I'm not going to try.
It's Il est vraiment! Il est vraiment!
See, that's
Not
why
in
I didn't want to
French.
fucking try it. That's why I didn't want to try it.
Vraiment.
I was saying this throughout the match because after pinfall, they did what most indie crowds do and go like, that was just two, or that's just two, but they were doing it in French. That's what I mean. Your French was amazing, so I was able to get translation of what things were. But overall, the match was absolutely fucking incredible. From start to finish, there was nothing where I thought, oh, this is just kind of going on. It's dragging. Like, it was, and it's the classic. But it's both guys that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You know, Cody Rhodes, an NWA champion. AJ Styles, X Division champion. Both have been world class.
Because AJ and Cody, coincidentally, are only 2 of 4 men who have held both the NWA and the WWE. I think the other being Harley Race and Ric Flair.
Yeah,
Roger would easily be able to correct me on that.
Harley Race never held the WWE title.
Oh, okay.
But automatically,
ludicrous suggestion.
And AJ Styles hitting that burning hammer on Cody Rhodes, that was fucking insane. Especially for Cody then just kick out of one.
Fighting.
I thought, fuck me.
Well,
And to anyone that thinks that was a AEW no sell, they weren't doing Canadian Destroyers after Canadian Destroyer and no selling it. He still fucking sold it. So cry me a fucking river.
real glass.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's what jumped out of me. Yeah, it was. So Meltzer's ratings aren't out yet for this show. I was curious to see what his ratings would be, but it doesn't. Sportskeeda have done their own, but who cares? Like at this point, you could just, for me, it's as close to a 5 stars as you can get. Like probably Sportskeeda gave it 4 3/4, which I think is probably correct. I think a 5-star needs to be like truly what. I got to be honest. I thought this match was better than his match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania.
I think stylistically they meshed.
Stylistically, see what that's very, very clever, very clever. Phenomenal.
I mean, the Cody Roman match was great in it, but in a different way because it had that slow burn, and then you had.
Yeah, but it also has like all the Hall of Famers in it, which I think is cheating. Like it's cool, don't get me wrong. I popped like crazy for it. But I don't think it should get a 5-star based off of that.
I mean, like, has like because Roman Cody was more of a throwback because the way it started and the way they did chain, it was like, okay, this is a slow burn, like very like old school, what you'd expect to see like in NWA almost, like just pure grappling, and then you had all the Hall of Famers, whereas this was more like a modern day like mesh of like, okay, here's all the things that AJ Styles proving that even though he's been saying in podcasts that he's feeling his body's winding down and not up to it, still fucking incredible.
This for me proved that he's got at least probably 2 or 3 more years and also should be pushed more. I would send him over to Raw and have him win the world title. I think they should have moved him to Raw.
Do you
absolutely?
Because I don't think it's happened yet, but AJ Styles, Logan Paul.
Oh,
that would slap.
Oh, it's my Prime boss. I don't have any in here. No Logan Paul, no Prime on the podcast. Sorry. By the way, the Arsenal Prime. Oh, do you want it, sir? It's actually delicious, isn't it? Have you tried it yet, Rog?
I haven't yet. No.
Come on, drink. Oh, mate, it's
Right.
really.
What flavor is it?
Sports Direct, can you get it from?
Mixed berry. It's
Yeah.
actually really nice.
Oh, okay.
It's really nice. Like a more simple but effective flavor, and it actually works really well.
Would you
Plus,
say
it's got the
like a
Arsenal
health-
logo on it, so it's, you know, it's
Is it
certifiably second place in Prime.
is it like a healthy oasis?
Is it a healthier Oasis? I mean, some
Like a
people,
healthy oasis, like Oasis mixed berries.
I don't know what's more healthy, Oasis or I imagine. I mean,
I'd say Prime. Prime would be healthy.
I don't know. Some gothic lady said to me that Prime was poison the first time I met her, and that should have been an indication of what was going to happen. But you know, this is what it is. You don't get Prime in my presence. You understand me? Unacceptable. 230 kg. Cry me a river. So you know, it's that thing of like, you know, like inside
Prime.
jokes. Yeah, it's Roger Sears. Love that one. Oh yeah, that gave him a pop. By the way, speaking of Roger Sears, I think it's time that we quickly interrupt this podcast for a Roger Sears penis update, ladies and gentlemen, because Roger Sears' schlong is so long that it was mistakenly given the award for the record for the world's biggest ever aubergine. Anyway, moving back to Backlash. Yeah, AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes. Finally impressive. Definitely close to 5 stars. Again, a world-class effort, I thought, from WWE for one of their premium live events. Should they be going forward with the 5-match structure?
Yes.
5 to
I very much
6,
think so.
6 to 7 at a push, but 5 to 6 is the perfect amount.
I very much think 5, mainly because a lot like Vince McMahon era, he would throw like 7 or 8 in there a lot of the time. A lot of them would be fillers that you just don't need to see. Like you would just randomly see
Ryback versus Camacho.
Exactly. You just see some random fucking match, and it would just be like, why do I need to see this? There's no build up for it. They've made a random build up for it, and it's just there. Like, okay, for like a PLE like Backlash, 5 matches, perfect. And then maybe for the bigger pay-per-views, you throw 6 in there, like WrestleMania, you have the longer pay-per-view style of it. But the 5-match structure just works because no one's exhausted, no one's tired. You get after like a 4-hour event and the crowd is just like, fuck me, I am on my ass. I just want this to be over. So, especially us in the UK when we're watching it, it's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and the sun's coming up and some people are getting up for work and we're just going to bed.
Well, this finished at 9 p.m. our time, which was delicious.
That was lovely.
As a very quick side note, Jessica Carr became the first ever women's referee to be the referee for the main event of a WWE title, which I thought was pretty spectacular as well. Yeah, awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
So you're saying like 5 matches is the perfect amount for like for the bigger cards, like 5 to 6, which I agree with you.
And the British Indies, might I add.
Except for one, do you think Royal Rumble should only be 4 matches then? Because having 2
Yeah,
Rumble
absolutely.
matches...
Yes, 4 matches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even that dragged for me this year because the men's rumble went 2.5 hours. I was like, oh, get on with it. Like the ending was like half an hour. Because Cody and CM Punk were like, let's have a 5-star match for 25 minutes. Let's not.
The women's was incredible because it just kept on there hitting and you had surprises and the winner at the end. Whereas with the men's, we're like, well, Cody's winning. We know this. How are they going to fucking do this?
I am just kind of going to throw your surprises in there with the Royal Rumble. Unfortunately, because of Death Rebel's new theme for a lot of the stars, when they did come in, it was just like, for me, especially, I don't know about anyone else, it's just like, who's the, oh, it's that person. Oh,
I actually prefer
it's that woman.
Death Rebel's AJ Styles thing. I actually think that's better. And I think that's the one that tends to cause a lot of aggro. People think, I must admit, a lot of these themes aren't good. But I actually think AJ Styles one is pretty good. I do. I like it. I think we've, obviously it's not as catchy as They Don't Want None, but it kind of fits the heel gimmick more. I don't think a heel should have a super catchy song.
In terms of Death Rebel, I'm really loving Damian Priest's new theme at the moment. I think that's
not
really
bad.
good.
Not bad. And at least Judgment Day have kept Alter Bridge when they come out as a group, thank God.
See, I've said that about Death Rebel, but it's like the one Death Rebel theme I do like is A-Town Down Under, or just Austin Theory's theme. Like, that is fucking sick. That is the one theme that I've thought of, and it's like, that's the one thing Death Rebel has made that is good. And that's it.
Yeah.
Is he called Death Rebel because he quite literally is like Beethoven and he's deaf?
I think
why the music is so terrible because you can't hear.
Death Rebel did Roman's new theme.
That's
So,
pretty sick, I think.
Okay,
right?
fair enough. I didn't even
you
not
can,
realize Death Rebel did
I
that
think
one.
I said it during Backlash of like Death Rebels suck, but the ones that they put effort into, you can tell and are actually bangers. I'm like,
WWE did release a statement recently where they said that they are aware of the heat that is involved with this music as well, which would suggest that maybe they are looking at other options going forward.
That's what I was about to get to. The thing is, you can never actually get away from Jim Johnson and the fact that his themes were absolute bangers. There's no theme that he did
he's
not
the
make
GOAT
that was
of
bad.
wrestling theme music. Like
Absolutely.
you're not getting like, you know, you're unfortunate in the sense of he was also in an era where all the icons were. So he created The Rock and Stone Cold and The Undertaker and all these different things. And then he evolved all of them, you know, The Undertaker with the Ministry and the heavy metal guitar and stuff. It's fuck yeah. Like these things are so iconic. Are we going to think of Def Rebel or CFO Dollar Sign in the same way in 20, 30 years time though? Because hindsight is obviously 2020 for a lot of people.
I mean, it sort of depends on what people back when Jim Johnson was doing his thing with obviously The Rock and the likes of them, what people were thinking then. They could have been thinking the exact same as we are with Def Rebel and like, oh, Jim Johnson is shit. I like this music, I like that music. But then now it's like years to come, they're like, oh, bring back Jim Johnson, because that's the one thing that you can never get away from the wrestling universe. And again, if you don't agree with me, cry me a fucking river. I don't give a shit. Every wrestling fan is fickle. They want this. They want, like, for instance, they wanted Cody Rhodes to win the Universal Championship, finish his story, and now it's been one title reign or a couple of title reigns, and they're like, oh, bring Roman back. I want it fucking Roman Reigns. Cody should never win it. Shut the fuck up. Okay, go back in your keyboard and just shut up. Okay, you're fickle because you said you wanted this, now you're not wanting it. They're going to be the exact same as Def Rebel. If Def Rebel were to get fired, they bring someone else in and like, oh, Def Rebel's theme was good, bring back Def Rebel. It's just going to be a constant cycle, and unfortunately, that's just never going to break.
Yeah, wrestling fans are very fickle when it comes to the hindsight nature of what it is, but you know, that is what it is. Right, let's move to the WWE Draft of 2024. I shall quickly read out the draft for you. So, Bianca Belair stayed on SmackDown. She was the #1 overall pick, by the way, for the SmackDown brand. Jey Uso was the #1 overall pick for Raw and stayed on Raw. What do we think initially about those being the #1 picks for the brand?
You say Bianca Belair?
Bianca Belair was the #1.
So she's one half of the tag champs and she can float between shows, but she was the #1 draft.
Well, she was drafted before they won the tag titles.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's fine, mate. Because they even made that crazy rule in that. So you had the draft on the Friday and the Monday, and then like, okay, we've done the draft, but then we're gonna give it a week. I think it was the Monday Raw after Backlash, where they're like, okay, now the rosters are locked in. So it's like
they always have a grace period.
Week?
They have done that for a few times now, where they have a grace period afterwards. But yeah, I quite like Jey Uso, especially being the #1 pick for Raw. I thought that was that's a statement of intent of, yeah, we see this guy as a big deal. And I think that's good because he does have extreme main event value appeal. The #3 overall pick was Carmelo Hayes, who went from NXT to SmackDown, which again is a hell of a statement. And then he opens up with his debut against Cody Rhodes. And now he's in a rivalry where he's disrespecting Bobby Lashley. Ah, you're black. Go over there. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's how it feels. It's like, yes. Like Bobby Lashley what do we think about Bobby Lashley being the pariah of all things black on SmackDown? He's just like, yeah, don't get me wrong. No one's going to argue with him. The fucking size of him. But, you know, it's that thing of like, okay, let's chuck all the black people in a story a bit weird.
Bobby beat the ender of black champions, Brock Lesnar.
I mean, are we going to get Max Caster as Bobby Lashley's sister again, if that's the case?
Good fucking God. What a horrific throwback I had. I committed that to my subconscious. You ruined my life again. The #4 overall pick, Seth Rollins stays on Raw. #5, Randy Orton stays on SmackDown. #6, Bron Breakker moved from SmackDown to Raw, which I actually think was a very good move. One of the more effective pickups. Nia Jax moved from Raw to SmackDown. Liv Morgan stayed on Raw. LA Knight stayed on SmackDown. Ricochet stayed on Raw. The Bloodline stayed on SmackDown. Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Paul Heyman. Sheamus moved from SmackDown to Raw. Good move, as we found out this week. AJ Styles stayed on SmackDown. Alpha Academy, Chad Gable, Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxine Dupree all stayed on Raw. Andrade moved from Raw to SmackDown, which would suggest to me that potentially Charlotte Flair might be moving to SmackDown very, very soon, or at least arriving there. Kiana James from NXT was the 16th overall pick, and she went to Raw. There seems to be quite a lot of excitement about this young lady as well. And in the night, this is night 1, by the way, and in the supplemental drafts for night 1, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn moved from SmackDown to Raw. Baron Corbin was drafted back to SmackDown from NXT. He's had quite a good run to his credit in NXT as the tag team champion alongside Bron Breakker before they dropped the belts to Nathan Fraser and Axion. Cedric Alexander, how are you still employed? And Ashante the Adonis, seriously, how are you still employed? Are both on SmackDown still. Ivar stays on Raw. Shayna Baszler stays on Raw. The OC stay on SmackDown, and Zoe Stark stays on Raw. So only 2 picks in that entire supplemental moved brands. After night 1, one of the biggest knocks, of course, was the fact that basically barely anybody moved. But we'll move on to night 2, then we'll dissect it a little bit more. So night 2 on Raw, Imperium, which is Gunther and Ludwig Kaiser, because the rather sexy Italian geezer, I've forgotten his name, Giovanni Vinci, that's it, yeah, the one that Cameron Anderson has a raging hard on over now. They stay on Raw. Jade Cargill stays on SmackDown. Damage Control moved from SmackDown to Raw, which was quite an interesting move at the time. Kevin Owens stays on SmackDown. CM Punk stays on Raw. The Pride stay on SmackDown. Braun Strowman stays on Raw. Tiffany Stratton stays on SmackDown. You can see where this is going. Latino World Order, hooray. SmackDown to Raw. Legado del Fantasma stay on SmackDown, therefore separating some of those goddamn Drew McIntyre was very low on the pick here. He stays on Raw. Shinsuke Nakamura moves from Raw to SmackDown. The Judgment Day stay on Raw. Naomi stays on SmackDown. Ilya Dragunov is officially drafted from NXT to Raw. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven move from Raw to SmackDown. Shout out to Chelsea Green, who had a very, very impressive showing actually on NXT this week, facing Roxanne Perez. The New Day stay on Raw. Pretty Deadly stay on SmackDown. Lyra Valkyria, the other wonderful Irish lady, you know, the one who's better in every way. She moved from NXT to Raw. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell moved from Raw to SmackDown. The Final Testament, Karrion Kross's White Supremacy group, moved from SmackDown to Raw. DIY went from Raw to SmackDown. Bronson Reed stays on Raw. And by the way, beat Bron Breakker in the King of the Ring tournament, which was, I thought, a massive upset, personally, even though he should really, because he's monstrous. Blair Davenport, which, of course, a lot of people might know as B. Priestley, somebody I've actually worked with, which I'm super excited for, has now moved from NXT to SmackDown, which I'm extremely fucking jazzed for her. And then in the Night 2 supplemental picks, Apollo Crews went from Raw to SmackDown. Yes, he is still employed. Of course, he went to SmackDown. Bobby Lashley's there. Black Power. Diamond Mine stayed on Raw. Dijak finally gets drafted to the main roster from NXT to Raw since that appalling whatever. What was the faction, Tanvir? Help me out. That terrible faction that they're part of with all the masks.
With
Retribution?
Yes,
one,
with Ali fucking
yeah. God. Giovanni Vinci was moved from Raw to SmackDown and then instantaneously arrived on NXT, which was very strange. Caden Carter and Katana Chance stayed on Raw. Natalia stays on Raw. New Cat Republic went from SmackDown to Raw. Odyssey Jones stays on Raw. I had no idea he was on Raw. Tegan Knox goes from Raw to SmackDown. Yawn. And currently, free agents are Brock Lesnar, Omos and MVP. Rhea Ripley stays on Raw and is inactive due to shoulder injury. Alexa Bliss is inactive due to maternity leave. She's on Raw still. Big E stays on SmackDown. Carmella is on Raw. Charlotte Flair's on SmackDown. Dexter Lumis and Eric are on Raw. Jimmy Uso stays on SmackDown, but is inactive due to an undisclosed injury. So interested to see where that storyline will go. Nikki Cross stays on Raw. Raquel Rodriguez stays on Raw. Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown, of course, and was, of course, removed, apparently, by Paul Heyman. That was the storyline. Shotzi stays on SmackDown. What a shame. Sonya Deville is still on Raw, amazingly still hired. Tamina, incredibly, still has a job and is on SmackDown. Uncle Howdy is not according to this, although Tamina's last appearance was on March the 2nd, 2023 on an episode of Main Event. And finally, Valhalla stays on Raw, and she is currently on maternity leave. Congratulations, I had no idea. So yeah,
wow.
Right, so obviously the main question I want to ask you guys is, what was the fucking point of that draft?
Yeah,
anything stand out there?
No.
Yeah, the fact that
it's literally insert wrestler name, stays on insert show. That's basically all it is.
I mean,
it just seems like a waste. Apart from a few NXT call-ups.
Yeah.
it's not just that. Like, the couple of things I have about it is the fact that when the draft originally came back in 2016, you had the Raw and SmackDown executive managers and the general managers, sorry, executive producers and the general managers at the time, Daniel Bryan, Shane McMahon, and Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley. You had them stand there at the stage on their podiums going Raw picks, SmackDown picks, like it was back in the day. But now, each round, you just had you had fucking Logan Paul and Speed choosing who the fuck we're going to be on the brand. Are they fucking management? What the fuck's going on here? Why can't you just have Nick Aldis and Scrap Daddy fucking stand there on their podiums like you had it back in the day? But it's not just that. Why not involve NXT a little bit and draft some superstars to NXT as a third brand? They treated it like a third brand for a little bit when they involved it in Survivor Series.
I actually think that's a really good point. I think that's a really good point.
It is a third. It's not a developmental brand anymore. It is the third brand of WWE. Yes, developmental stars do go there, and fresh stars go there just to test their foot in the water with the WWE. But in a sense, it is a third brand because you've had the likes of Baron Corbin, Finn Balor, and even before he got released, Adam Cole went back there. So
Dolph Ziggler.
Why can't you just, and Dolph Ziggler, so why can't you just treat it as a separate brand and draft some superstars there rather than just fucking, taking their superstars and making think, oh shit, we've got no one. We need to rehire now. Who's on the indies? Who can we fucking grab? Who's not tied down to a contract? Like, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, there was a rather interesting, like you mentioned a couple of them. So the list of people who announced the draft picks, Roger Sears will get a kick out of this because obviously he's a veteran like me. So I'll list out the people that basically came out and announced picks. Cody Rhodes alongside Triple H to do Raw and SmackDown's first round. The second round was done by Michelle McCool and Tori Wilson. The third round was done by the Dudley Boys. Okay. The fourth and final round for night one, of course, on SmackDown was done by Teddy Long and JBL. And then on night two, oh boy. Yeah. The first round picks were announced by Stephanie McMahon. YouTuber and rapper iShow Speed did the second round, while SmackDowns were announced by Logan Paul. Round three picks were announced by Hall of Famers JBL again and Ron Simmons of the Acolyte Protection Agency. Do you remember when they had the T-shirt, APA, always pounding ass? Oh boy, that was
what?
That was something. Do you not remember that?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's fucking amazing.
Christ.
What's the worst T-shirt design in wrestling history? Is it AJ Styles Come T-shirt from TNA, or is it the APA always pounding ass T-shirt, or is it the Sin Cara one where it looks like he's got a giant cock? These are all things that need to be.
I'm gonna have.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's have a look. So it's the AJ Styles Come T-shirts, you say?
Yeah, like officer. I mean, careful putting that in, especially on DuckDuckGo. But
can I throw
I don't know what to type in.
T-shirt design into the hat?
Sure.
AEW Sammy Guevara with the AEW title looking in a mirror.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's like, oh yeah, someday soon I'm gonna be champion. It's like, mate, you're never fucking being
that
champion.
Sounds horrendous. Yeah, but he does get to tap Taynara Conti, so he's kind of, who's the real winner here? Like, I'll be like, I don't give a shit, mate. Have you seen my wife? Like, seriously. Why would you give a fuck? Yeah, fucking yeah, man. Like,
I'm gonna guess you mean this T-shirt there.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't really see. I'm not getting enough of the. Yeah, look, see, there's a bit of just come. That's what it is.
Yeah, it does not look great.
Yeah, not fantastic. Like the draft, drizzling, dripping, and ultimately only minimal sales involved.
It really was not like there was no point in it. They should have just kept it as they were. And if they were going to do a draft again, just stick to the old concept. Have your general manager stand there on a podium. Like, nothing gets better than that. Even that's transfer, especially when Ric Flair came out and was like, it's not your pick. Brock Lesnar's mine, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, fair enough. The King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments are now in full swing. Before we read out the brackets, what do you think about the fact that WWE backtrailed a little bit and have had some of the quarterfinals or the knockout stages on live shows, house shows?
I think the two that were for house shows, I mean, Kofi v Ray is kind of understandable. The women's one, I'm not sure which women's match was it that got on the house show.
I have no idea. It doesn't actually tell you. I think it was. I'm having a look through the list here. Ivy Nile and Zoe Stark was on Raw. Dakota Kai versus Lyra Valkyrie. That was on Raw.
Shayna v Zelina Vega.
Oh, okay, which doesn't. Well, that hasn't been updated yet. Apparently, that's on May the 11th and May the 12th. So that's in a couple of days that they're having those matches on live. Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega, Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio. So only the two currently for the house shows. Do you think that discredits it a little bit? That's the first round knockout before we get to the quarterfinals. Yeah, you think so?
I do. Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I don't care about this King of the Ring anyway, despite how impressive some of the matches were. I also worry that they spunked a lot of their good matches in the first round. So this is going to be interesting, though. So far, we have Gunther defeating Sheamus in the main event of Raw. For anyone who didn't see it, I highly recommend you go and watch it because it's Gunther versus fucking Sheamus.
It's free on YouTube.
Yeah, it is. It's also free if you use legal streams. Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio will take place this weekend.
Uploaded by WWE.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, other platforms are available. Ricochet lost out to Ilya Dragunov. Thank God. Very cool, very big kind of face versus face moment. Excellent match, to be fair. Jey Uso went over Finn Balor in the first round, which means in the quarterfinals, the first male quarterfinal to be set, Ilya Dragunov will face Jey Uso. Oh, do you want it, sir?
That's really hard to call. I really want Ilya to win.
Russia versus Samoa. That old stalwart war between two magnificent stallions. Can you imagine if Russia invaded Samoa? Good God Almighty!
Christ.
I actually fancy Samoa to fuck them up. I actually do. Yeah, if they can disarm them, they're fucked. Yeah, I mean, Haku just stood on the beach by himself. Yeah.
You want to challenge me?
You just see Yokozuna doing the stomp that he did before.
That'd be very impressive considering he's dead.
The ghost of Yokozuna.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
but so obviously that's what we've got, and also Gunther awaits the winner of Kofi Kingston and Rey Mysterio. Have fun with that, boys. The winner of AJ Styles and Randy Orton, which will take place on SmackDown, will face Baron Corbin or Carmelo Hayes. Got to be AJ Styles versus Carmelo Hayes, surely. Got to be. That's got banger written all over it. And then the other first round tie-ups, you've got LA Knight versus Santos Escobar. I wonder who's going to win that. And Bobby Lashley versus Tama Tonga. Holy bollocks. Yeah.
We've upset Tanvi.
Tanvi's left, which is hilarious. Yeah, we're finally talking about Japanese fucking wrestling talent. Obviously, he's not Japanese, but he's wrestled most of his life in Japan. And so Tama Tonga versus Bobby Lashley is the wild card matchup right there.
One moment, Carl Wilkinson. Yeah, we're talking about Japanese wrestlers.
That's awful. That's really awful. Also, Carl Wilkinson doesn't ring anybody, please. That's so unbelievable, honestly. Mind you, he probably has to ring up because he ain't got any legs, so he probably has to ring up whenever he needs his food delivered to his room. But it is what it is. Right, moving on to the women's round. By the way, we all happy with the men's bracket? Looks really good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've definitely picked out star-studded people here to eventually be the king of the ring.
So Gunther and Jey Uso will run into each other in the semi-finals, which means that So who do we think? Bearing in mind the winner of the SmackDown bracket will face the winner of the Raw bracket, who do we fancy as early predictions? Gunther in the final, surely.
Gunther definitely in the final. I reckon Gunther versus LA Knight. Just because people want LA Knight to win, people want Gunther to win, and everyone knows how the prestigious way of the King of the Ring used to work. It'd be a mid-carder that would elevate themselves into the main event picture.
Yeah, like what a job.
Yeah. But like
that didn't always work, by the way.
It didn't always work. No, look at Xavier Woods losing straight away.
Billy Gunn is what I'm going for right there.
As I say,
Tanvi, you unprofessional hack. Where have you been?
I needed to take a shot.
You know,
I've been pinching since the
I
beginning
did
of this
flush, so it's
podcast.
not
king of the
him.
shit.
I've been pinching since the beginning of this podcast. If I can do it, you can do.
Did you go full Vince McMahon and shit on someone's head?
Jesus Christ!
Do you have a picture of Vince McMahon in your toilet bowl as like a, reclamation? Fair enough. Roger Sears looks
I
really
wanna do that
uncomfortable. Is
now.
everything all right? You know, Roger Sears, you look very uncomfortable. So maybe it's now time for another round of Roger
Oh,
Sears' penis. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Sears' dong is so big that Ticketmaster actually owns the rights to it as a venue for concerts in the future. All right, moving back to the WWE King of the Ring, ladies and gentlemen. We now move to the women's bracket, the Queen of the Ring. Oh, fuck off. So Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega will take place in the first round on WWE Live. I wonder why that is. Jobber alert. Io Sky successfully pinned Natalia, oh thank God, and will face the winner of Shayna Baszler or Zelina Vega. Dakota Kai lost out to Lyra Valkyria. Not Valkyria, it has to be Valkyria so that they can own the rights to it. Lazy bastards. She moves on to face Zoe Stark in the quarterfinals. Who dispatched Ivy Nile. And in the SmackDown bracket, we don't actually know who any of the women are yet because they have not announced. I guess women's wrestling can go fuck itself when it comes to the Queen of the Ring.
Clearly.
Didn't Zelina Vega win the Queen of the Ring?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean-
it was like Queen Zelina.
I like Zelina Vega, but I always feel like she should have been like a manager. She was on her way to being like the female Paul Heyman with Andrade, and they just shit-canned it and fucked around. They released her over the streaming thing, and then they brought her back, and yeah, it's never been the same since. And they need to stop pushing her as a wrestler, in my opinion. I'd much prefer her as a manager, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, women's bracket, not particularly looking great, is it? If we're being honest. Pretty weak, actually, so far.
Did Chelsea Green get drafted to SmackDown?
Yes, she did.
Okay, that's my pick for Queen of the Ring.
Really? Chelsea Green?
Wow.
She'd suit the gimmick. She'd suit the gimmick.
Yes, but it also really devalues the credibility of the whole tournament if the shithouse heel that can't wrestle. Well, to her credit, she had an excellent match with Roxanne Perez. And it's that thing of like, they're deliberately booking her to look like an idiot, which is a bit annoying.
There's still the SmackDown half of King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring to go.
Yes, there is, but at least we know who's on the men's side of it. The women's side, we have no fucking clue. So I'm assuming it'll just be announced tonight on SmackDown. So
This is why I don't agree with the whole women's part of the tournament being shown.
because
on
Sean
live
McKenzie doesn't like women. Women shouldn't be allowed. Queen of the Ring.
Hang
More
on.
like Queen for the Ring, am I right?
His words, not mine. And I'm pointing that way because
that's what Sean McKenzie thinks. He hates women's wrestling, by the way.
no, I do not. Anyway,
Told me in confidence he thinks the women at All Star are terrible.
let me just get the group chat up real quickly. That's not what I said. Anyways,
Which, by the way, they're not. They're all magnificent.
agreed.
Mm. Who's your favourite, Sean?
Hard to pick.
What, his favourite woman?
In the All Star roster, yeah.
Oh.
Hard to pick. There's 4, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
I don't
smart.
even know the All-Star roster.
That's you don't train there, so I wouldn't expect you to know who the All Star Wrestling South women's trainees are, but they're all excellent, by the way. Look, trust me, they're going to be stars. End of story. Yeah. I don't pick favorites. Unlike Sean McKenzie, who told me in confidence that Megan Harlan is definitely his favorite. So it is what it is. He likes to refer to himself as Mini Nathan Angel. Anyway, moving on, ladies and gentlemen. So the Queen and King of the Ring tournaments are they are what they are. Yeah. Any final words, Rod Sears, on the King and Queen of the Ring? Do you think they should have just not fucking bothered?
It does feel that way a little bit, doesn't it? I preferred it when it was a one-night thing rather than being spread out so much like this.
Roger Sears, I do have a question for you, actually.
Yeah, go on.
There is a massive rumor circulating the internet right now that your cock is so massive that when it caused a tsunami that killed 220,000 Indonesians. What do you think about that?
I apologise.
Yeah.
Is that all you've got to say about the people that died?
On a lighter note, it is worth pointing out Roger Sears' penis is so large that his memory foam mattress has to drink alcohol to forget. So
I feel like there should
that's a
definitely
slow
be,
burn. You have to think about that one.
there should definitely be like a tune or something that plays after every single Roger Says cock announcement. There's got to be something.
Boing. Just a massive boing.
Oh,
Yep,
wow.
absolutely. It's also worth
Holy
pointing out.
fuck, I'm
It's also,
coming.
it's funny. Also, it is before we move on, Roger Sears' dick is so ginormous that if you laid it across a football field, the game would be cancelled. Right. Boing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving back to professional wrestling. Unfortunately, you know what? We're not going to go with the sky blue fucking harassment thing because that just seems awkward coming off of Roger Sears' penis.
I've got a Roger.
No, Tanvir, I'm in charge of the Roger Sears segment. You will shut the hell up, motherfucker.
Should I message you my suggestion?
Yes, you should. Since 2018, WWE has hosted 10 premium live events in Saudi Arabia, including shows like Crown Jewel, Night of Champions, and the Elimination Chamber. However, a reported update surrounding Saudi Arabia's existing agreement with WWE could see more major PLEs hosted in the country. WWE is currently 6 years into their 10-year agreement with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which already looks likely to get extended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So, do we think it's, well, first of all, are we okay with Saudi Arabia still having pay-per-views? And also, do we think they should have bigger premium live events? Because apparently they're pushing for bigger ones like Money in the Bank or WrestleMania or SummerSlam.
Blood Money in the Bank.
Nice. Yeah, money. Yeah, even Paul Levesque has a price.
Ultimately, that's probably what it was going to boil down to, right? Is how much money they're prepared to give WWE for it. Yeah, whether it's you agree with it on a moral standpoint is neither here nor there. As harsh as that sounds, it literally is just going to come down to money.
It's capitalism.
We love capitalism here in the West, pal. That's good shit. On a side note, has anyone seen the Wall project that Saudi Arabia is doing?
No.
The what?
This is truly mind-blowing. This is a legitimate thing. So they have just started I think it's something like a $517 billion project called the Wall, which will be a wall that extends across the entire length of Saudi Arabia. This wall will literally be like one of these. It looks like the Citadel from Mass Effect. And the idea is that when it's finished, it'll be two very, very, very long skyscrapers. Probably a good reason why I'm interested. And it's that thing of they'll just extend so far. Easy now, easy. And easy now. I can hear Yaz laughing from here, the shit house. So yeah, it's literally, this thing is going to be miles and miles long, and it's going to be a wall with like a sort of this super futuristic trench in the middle with like Utopia Gardens, and they're already laying down all of it. It looks utterly spellbound. Amazing.
Trump's interested.
You think who's interested?
Trump.
I mean, the only reason that I'm interested is because ultimately I have it on very good authority that Roger Sears' penis is so big that it actually was used for the blueprint and architecture for the wall in Saudi Arabia, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely mind-blowing. By the way, I made that one up on the fly, so suck my dick.
Good shit.
You're welcome. It's also worth pointing out that when you go to a cinema, Roger Sears' dick is so big that they actually offer popcorn in small, medium, large, extra large, and Sears. Pretty impressive, if you ask me. And also, it is also worth pointing out at this point that Roger Sears' unit is so big that all of his relationships are mandatory in terms of long distance. Shout out to his wife, Joe. So, yeah, that's one of my favorites so far. I literally sat down and wrote these all out before the podcast. I was bored. I was like, and I literally sat there for 2 hours trying to think of as many Roger Sears penis jokes as I could. So you're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, any other thoughts on Saudi Arabia having PLEs? Do we think they should have Great Balls of Fire, for instance?
I forgot that one even existed, to be honest.
Do you know what, right? It happened once. Do you know what? It's actually really good.
Yeah.
Does everyone remember it, though? It's really good.
Brock Lesnar, Samoa Joe.
Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe in the main was sick. You had Braun versus Roman in the ambulance match. That was fucking gangster. Heath Slater versus Kurt Hawkins. Oh. Do you want it, sir?
I mean,
yeah, what do we think? Should Saudi Arabia get one of the big ones?
They had greatest Royal Rumble. But
yeah, which kind of led to like nothing. It had to Braun Strowman winning some kind of title that end up being just some kind of consolation.
I actually really like the belt he won, by the way. I thought it was a really nice belt. That beautiful green belt. It was green straps in wrestling. More of that, please. Lovely. Roger Sears, you're a man of reason and respect. Do you think genuinely Saudi Arabia should get a big PLE?
No. Morally, no, I don't think they should.
Why morally? What's morally so upsetting about Saudi Arabia?
No, I think the issue is if they're going to host one of the bigger ones, there are going to be people who are going to want to travel to it, and I think there's going to be a lot of complications for that. That's why I'd say no to it. You know, you give them a WrestleMania. Can you imagine what the travel is going to be like? You know, and all the people flock from all over the world to go there to a WrestleMania. So I'd say no on that standpoint, but I once again stand by my original statement. It's going to come down to money regardless.
Could you imagine GCW collective in Saudi Arabia?
What, with all the LGBTQ plus fucking pro events they do? Turns out Saudi Arabia not nearly as progressive as it would like to be so far. I'm assuming this wall will not include a certain demographic of individuals. No idea. I certainly won't be allowed in there, that's for sure.
I think if they're going to involve some of the big four in Saudi Arabia, I think they should sort of like
Survivor Series.
War Games!
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia presents War Games. What about the PLE?
No.
What PLE? What are you talking? What the fuck is a PLE? They're just like, yeah, War Games, baby.
No.
Welcome to Armageddon.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Armageddon. Fantastic.
Jesus.
They could have a politicians only one called Vengeance.
Vengeance Day.
Yeah, that's a real thinker for people who watch the news. Yes, because our fans love the news. Yeah, I mean, not much else to report really, but they're probably going to get more, so deal with it. Has anyone heard about Ric Flair's legal action following the Florida restaurant incident?
Oh,
What happened there?
Fucking drunk.
So, Ric Flair has not appeared on AEW programming since March, but he made the news again this week following an incident involving him in a Gainesville, Florida Paisanos stove oven pizza restaurant last weekend. Flair initially claimed on social media he had been wrongfully asked to leave the establishment, followed by a manager from a sister Paisanos claiming Flair had been drunk and disorderly. Shock. This was followed by video of the incident being released over TikTok on Tuesday, which showed a belligerent Flair arguing with Paisanos staff. Now, on Wednesday, Flair is giving his side of the story. Speaking with the Gainesville Sun, Flair stated that he was approached by a member of Paisanos' kitchen staff while attempting to use the restroom, seemingly for an autograph, which Ric Flair declined. He claims the staff member then went into the restroom stall, and that after several minutes, Flair could still see the staff member sitting and texting for a crack in the stall door. At that point, Flair told him to get off your ass so that the Nature Boy could use the restroom. The Paisanos co-owner has commended his staff for acting professionally during the Flair incident. After finally doing so, Flair, who he said was as happy as could be, claims to have been accosted by a female staff member who accused Flair of being a peeping Tom for spying on the other staff member. Flair took offense to these remarks, leading to the confrontation seen on video between Flair and the manager. Contrary to his claims in the video, Flair did admit to cussing out the kitchen staff member earlier, while also confirming he did tip a female bartender $1,000, even though she didn't oblige his request to tell the manager to kiss his ass. Paisanos co-owner Jerry Roberts also spoke with The Sun, revealing the tip was rejected and the restaurant instead paid the employee the $1,000, as he had in earlier statements. Said, Roberts commended his staff for their professionalism and said the leaked video speaks for itself. That still may be enough for Flair, who revealed he was considering filing a lawsuit against the establishment, even joking that he could buy the restaurant and rename it Ric Flair's Italian Bistro if he felt so inclined. The Nature Boy also apologized to anyone who was offended by the incident. Why would you apologize if you're innocent? Very strange incident, but again, it's old man Ric Flair getting drunk and causing aggro at a restaurant. At this point, should he just get the fuck out of the public eye?
Yeah, I don't even know why he bothers at this point. He's always getting himself into some kind of trouble.
Yeah, he's He's a special breed, isn't he? There's not really much you can add to that, if I'm being honest. It is what it is. Parties to the Janelle Grant WWE lawsuit submit stipulation agreeing to potential timeline. So the timeline for the pending civil lawsuit against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE continues to become clearer little by little. Over the last few weeks, lawyers for McMahon and Laurinaitis filed motions to compel arbitration in the case rather than see it go to civil court, essentially deal with it in a private matter so that it would not be seen in public. Now all involved parties have agreed on terms relating to when the necessary paperwork must be filed to consider the case for arbitration. The defendants have until May the 14th to file their official motion. This is going to drag on for a very, very long time. Obviously, the allegations against Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis in particular. Roger says, does this still affect WWE despite the fact that they now moved on from Vince McMahon? Is it still something that they must be extremely wary of? Or do you feel like they're just going to try and stick him, get over there, get as far away from us as possible?
I think they'll try and do that, but just by the history of Vince and owning WWE, they're always going to be linked to it, whether they like it or not. They're just going to have to try and do their best to distance themselves from it as much as possible. But this is the very thing, we're doing a wrestling podcast, and this has come up as wrestling news, in which case it's always going to get linked to WWE. So no matter how much they try, whenever this comes up, whenever there's something new in the news about the case and how it's developing, it'll always get linked to WWE.
I think because of who was involved with it, obviously being the chairman of WWE and overall his family being a massive part of WWE's creation, I think the name, when it comes to that lawsuit, when it gets brought up, it's going to be tarnished just ever so slightly for either until this court case is over, but hopefully not forever, just because of what's happened. And they can try and just continue forward and sweep it in the past, but I think that no matter what happens, WWE is also always going to be known as it's always going to be known as the brand that was owned by someone that shat on someone's head and also basically committed slavery in his own workplace.
Yeah. Dan Veer, anything you want to add to that?
Not much to add.
Not really. All of a sudden, Tanvir is a little bit short of words and doesn't want to interrupt. How ironic.
It's Vince, man. Like, it's what the
He
fuck
doesn't want to
is
say
that?
anything because he's a Vince McMahon supporter.
But Jesus, no.
Ah.
I think the only thing I'd support is the roids, but nah.
Fucking hell.
Jesus.
I see you're a big fan of the juice. Shout out to RJ Simpson. Rest in peace, brother. Roger Sears Pengus, by the way, is so massive, right, that it's actually responsible for 98% of Dorset's potholes. Boing. It's also so heavy, in fact, that when Roger Sears stood on his scales the last time out, the scales just said access denied. Bit of a weird one. And one that actually Sean McKenzie kind of preemptively struck upon, which I'd actually already written down before he wrote it. I have written down here, Roger Sears' penis is so massive that on the first day God created Roger Sears' dick.
Nice.
Yeah. In more interesting news regarding space, Roger Sears' dick is so big that black holes move towards him.
Roger's dick is so big it's the rings around Saturn.
I've already used that one.
That's false news.
Roger Sears' cock is so enormous, however, that the Chinese army had to mobilize their entire ground force just to stop him invading. And finally, it is worth pointing out that Roger Sears' third leg is so wide that it had to be registered as its own principality, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in next week for more interesting facts about Roger Sears' penis. Thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Plug, ladies and gentlemen. That pretty much wraps up the news, other than the rather unsavory incident involving Sky Blue, who was harassed during a Ring of Honor taping. Unfortunately, during a match, an individual in the front row was making some extremely lewd and harassing comments towards her, which grew in ferocity until eventually he was ejected by security, not before putting up a hell of a fight and apparently being dragged out by a number of fans as well, who were obviously extremely angry and disappointed by this man's behavior. Roger Sears, you're somebody who obviously spends a lot of time working in ring, probably more so than any of us have. Is it safe to say that fans overstep their mark a number of times when it comes to professional wrestling?
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And it sounds horrible to say it like this, but when it comes to female wrestlers, some of them almost feel like they're entitled to act like complete and utter assholes when they're really, really not. Yeah,
Pretty
you
depressing,
pay
isn't
for
it?
a ticket. Yeah, you pay for a ticket to come and watch it. That doesn't entitle you to act like a complete and utter asshole like that. So
Looking at you, Tanvir. Nothing, just looking at you, mate. Why are you so uncomfortable? Tanvir harasses wrestlers. The only person he fucking harasses is Japanese wrestlers. Have you seen his fucking Facebook? Every week he's got some picture with like Ishii or something like that.
And if you notice, they're all like slight smiles. They're all just like this.
I'm swear you were doing the Orange Cassidy thing before he was.
Must have been.
Yeah. Stole his gimmick off of Tanvir. It's also worth pointing out that Tanvir is a more believable worker than Orange Cassidy, but it is what it is. Suck my dick, AEW fans. That one specifically is aimed at Adam Wessex. Right, it's time for any other business. Gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to talk about before we wrap up the State of Wrestling address?
Roger,
No.
have you been watching X-Men 97?
Oh, fucking
I have
hell.
not. No.
What a fucking
It's
dork.
so good. Man,
No.
it's X-Men.
Is this the one that you
I
claim
haven't watched
Cyclops
it
is
yet.
really good?
Cyclops is getting better, but man, Magneto's so fucking baller.
Controversial opinion. Michael Fassbender, best Magneto.
Fact.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, Ian McKellen did have the cold.
Oh, Ian McKellen's masterful, but I think Fassbender is a better overall representation of Magneto. There's a lot more strife and a lot more mental conflict in the character when Fassbender plays it.
I think for McKellen, it's because he's got the coldest line in Magneto history when the female mutant asks, "Oh, where's your mark?" and he's like, "Madam, I've been marked by a needle once before and it'll never happen again," and it's him showing his Holocaust numbers. I'm like, that's so fucking cold.
Quite dark, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
I actually think the modern X-Men movies, the last set, were brilliant. I think they're massively, massively underrated. And I'm not a big fan of the fact that Marvel have rebought the property, I think, and they're going to redo it again. And it's just like...
the live action suck. The live action is not going to be good, but X-Men 97 has like a show is up there as like one of the
Is this just a reboot of the original? Or is it?
It's a continuation.
Oh, it's good. So it's an actual fresh, brand new thing. What's it on?
So when the 90s series ended, it ended with Xavier going to space, and then the
It better have the original theme, or I'm going to kick off.
That was
He's Gambit in it.
So Kevin Feige had 2 rules for X-Men 97.
I don't care about Kevin, whoever. What a terrible name. Is Gambit in it or not?
Yes,
answer the question.
Gambit's in it.
Good. So that's all I care about.
Gambit, Nightcrawler.
Gambit is the best X-Men.
What we are discovering is that Nix is still mad at the Gambit movie got shit canned.
Understandably so. Just terrible. Didn't they cast Channing Tatum as Gambit?
I can't actually remember who they cast.
Ben. He was briefly in one of the movies, wasn't he? Wasn't it a Wolverine movie where he's briefly Gambit? And I was just like, nope. Absolutely not.
Channing Tatum in X-Men Origins?
Pretty sure Channing Tatum is in one of those movies very briefly as Gambit. I'm not sure if it was like moved from the editorial or something, the director's cut or whatever, but
no,
Gambit definitely is in one of them.
Gambit comes in X-Men Origins because he kind of helps out in that final battle between whatever that Deadpool was at the end. But I'm just trying to see now who it was played by.
What? Taylor Kitsch.
Who? Okay. I know that Channing Tatum was scheduled to play him in the movie, which I personally thought was a terrible pick. Although Gambit is a really hard one to cast. You need a high-end French actor. You can't just kind of just throw anyone at it. Unless you're The Rock, in which case apparently you can play all the Arab superheroes, which is some fucking horseshit. I just about got over Black Adam, and now this little cunt's trying to steal all of them. I'm like, right, listen here, you Roy D. Magoo, get back in your fucking hole, all right?
as soon as I saw he was trying to play Apocalypse, I'm like, yo, that's another Egyptian, like super, like.
We don't have many, by the way, and the fact that The Rock is kind of laying claim to all the Arab ground is like, oh, I'm a little bit more PG and family friendly than an actual Arab. Fuck you. There are so many good Arab actors who could play these roles. You lazy pieces of shit.
Speaking of Apocalypse, I want to get Nick to take on this. What do you think of Oscar Isaac doing Apocalypse?
I have no idea who that is, if I'm being honest.
Well, X-Men, because in X-Men Apocalypse, he played Apocalypse, the bad guy. I think you watched it or not.
Oh, right. No, I haven't seen it. Oh, wait a minute. Apocalypse.
Blue guy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Like, really fucking. I've just Googled him, actually. Yeah, I recognize that guy. Yeah, he's excellent. Like, yeah, I thought he was brilliant. But then I also thought Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four movie was great, and everyone kicked off about that. Carl was like, oh, that is not canon.
Which one?
Dork. The one that is vehemently regarded as one of the worst action movies of all time.
Oh, the new.
The one with Michael B. Jordan.
Michael Jordan, yeah.
Yes, Michael Jordan. The Chicago Bulls. Power forward.
Both called Michael Jordan.
I still love
Michael Jordan!
I still love that Space Jam New Legacy made that joke.
Yeah.
I refuse to watch the new Space Jam.
Yeah, the classic one will always be better.
Absolutely, flatly refusing. It's not even. I like LeBron James, an amazing athlete, but I'm like, nope, absolutely not. It's Bill Murray.
I found it.
I want to say he has like a quick cameo or something, but I don't think so.
I feel like the new one. I watched like a little clip of it when he turned into the cartoon, and he was like, "I'm a cartoon." I thought that's just too cheesy. Like everything he's doing now, acting like a Looney Tunes, it's just too cheesy.
Yeah, I don't think that kind of thing holds up. What the original came out, 96, 97, something like that, and that was,
Films where they
Is R. Kelly in it? Is he singing it again? Does he? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Films where they used to mix the animated and then the live action together, like the two I can think of is Looney Tunes Back in Action, then a really old one, which was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. Both are two of my favorite films, way before their fucking time, especially Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that was just so much better than trying to make every single person animated. Because even when he went into the animated world, he was still human. He was still human. He wasn't like animated or drawn in any way. They just CGI'd him in, or whatever it was back then.
It was also like all the rights things, because now it'd be like a PR disaster to try and make that film. Whereas back then you had Disney and Looney Tunes interacting. Like you had the famous scene of Daffy and Donald playing piano, and then Mickey parachuting together. So Who Framed Roger Rabbit is very much like a period of like the times as well. I mean, Bob Hoskins amazing as always.
Absolutely, rest in peace.
I still love when I think he was filming the Super Mario movie, and he's like, "I'm a classically trained actor. Like, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing this for?"
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it is what it is. Roger Sears, anything you want to add at the end of this podcast? Any upcoming matches or bookings you'd like to plug?
the next one I can. Oh no, I am doing something in June, aren't I?
If there is a wrestling show that I would very much like to plug, it is June the 8th, All Star South. Nathan Angel's 21st birthday bash.
What about the one on June the 9th then? Are they doing one on the
date, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's a chop from Joel Bullet Anthony.
What a fucking idiot. Turn up on June the 8th. There won't be anyone there.
Yeah, I'll just turn up on June 8th.
Yeah, no ring, no rules. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anyone wants to be Sean McKenzie, it'll be on his own at the Village Hall. And we'll be having a great time.
If anyone has any thoughts of breaking my other shoulder, I'll be there.
Wow.
Nah.
Wow, we're just digging people out.
No, it's funnier when you break it yourself.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Oh dear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the State of Wrestling address. If you'd like to follow WrestlePlug on social media, then you're quite frankly insane, but you can do so at WrestlePlug across all forms of social media. You can also send us an email and call me a Wendy boy like some other wrestlers have done in the past, WrestlePlug@gmail.com. It's okay. I'll see you in a week and a half, buddy. Hey, you know, it is what it is. I don't care. I really don't fucking care. I'll murder all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Plug. Thank you very much to Sean McKenzie for joining us here at the Wrestle Plug. See you later, Gora. Thank you very much to Tanvir and his big black unit. And speaking of big units, thank you very much to the current reigning and defending one half of the IWE Tag Team Champions, Rod SEARS.
Thank you.
That's what I was waiting for, another dick announcement then.
I have to say, Rod SEARS, you as one half of the IWE Tag Team Champions is a towering achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Plug. And from myself, Aaron Nix, the biggest prick in all of professional wrestling, we'll catch you very soon for more content from the Wrestle Plug. See you later, dickheads. Roger Sears' cock, right? So big that it was actually used to measure the equator. That one was from Tanvir Verde. He gets credit for that one.